Hey, Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
Have you heard about those electric vehicles?
Yeah, them EVs.
Yeah, what the heck is an EV anyway?
I think EV means environmental vehicle.
Oh, I thought
Uh,
it was evolutionary vehicle.
really, I heard that they drive on the wrong side of the road too, like
I thought
foreigners.
it was just an effective vehicle or something like that. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Nicholas Art signing in for Car News Cafe, and today we are with.
Aaron, who's also at Corners Cafe. Today we're going to talk about the green car market, and specifically what we're going to talk about is how it gets paid for, and it's probably not the way you think it is. Uh, for the most part, the major players in the electric vehicle market right now in terms of sales, and by electric vehicles, we're not just talking battery electrics, we're talking electrified vehicles, so hybrids, plug-ins, and battery electrics, and eventually here fuel cells. But in terms of sales, the number one electric vehicle is the Toyota Prius. The top selling electric vehicles or electrified vehicles are all hybrid models or plug-in models, and they're from the three major. They are from three major, not the three. They are from three major manufacturers: Toyota, Ford, and Nissan. And all three of those companies have one thing in common, and it has nothing to do with their electric vehicles. What is that? What is it? What do they have in common, Nicholas? Think about it.
Well, gee, are you referring to the fact that all three of them, their bread and butter, are actually gasoline car? Nay, even worse. All three of them are actually pretty well known for much bigger cars, SUVs and pickup trucks, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most car manufacturers are geared towards making gasoline engines, and what sells a lot in the US? Pickup trucks.
Yep,
So is that what you're referring to?
it is. For Ford, it's obvious. Their number one selling
Gosh,
vehicle is the Ford
shock.
F-150.
I am
The
so
Ford
shocked. It's not a green
F-150,
world after all.
the Ford F-150 is also the top selling model in the
Yep.
United States.
Yeah.
Now go over to Toyota. What was Toyota's big announcement this morning in their PR? They're adding 300 new jobs at a plant that makes the Highlander crossover.
Oh, I missed it.
Okay, Toyota's number one selling vehicles across the board. Well, their top selling vehicles, I should say. So if you look at Toyota's lineup, their top selling vehicles are all SUVs and crossovers, with the exception of the Camry.
Right.
And Nissan, same story. All their top selling vehicles are crossovers and SUVs, with the exception of the Altima. So
Right.
there you go. That illustrates how electric vehicles get paid for, because all of these companies and every other company that's in the game in a major way has made it clear that they do not turn a profit on their electrified vehicles. Um,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I
the
actually,
only exception to that is Tesla, but I don't know that Tesla turns a
well,
profit either, because
they
they
don't
keep
turn
spending money
profit.
on stuff that it seems to that makes sense if you think about Tesla as a company. But on the other hand, you're like, where did all that cash come from?
Yeah, no. Tesla doesn't make a profit. Tesla right now does one thing very well. It's setting the foundation for tomorrow. So I don't
Right,
think it's
right.
not a. I mean, people who invest, good for you. You understand long-term investments. That's great. But it's not a very sound. I mean, well, financially sound business. I think it's a great idea. And they will succeed. But another thing that you just reminded me of is that both Toyota and Nissan are going to have a hard time becoming green companies. I mean, look at their logos. Their logos are red, for crying out loud. I think Ford has the edge there. Ford is already blue. Because blue and red, what does blue and red make? Well, it makes green, right?
Well, you put it on a white background, and then what do you have? Merca. So anyway, well, it's interesting to me because the two of us especially, but I think the automotive reader at large, I guess, uh, gets inundated with green car news.
Yes.
News about who's got the latest supercar, who's got the late, hybrid supercars like the P1 and stuff, and then you've got the, who's selling more electric cars and who's building them faster and who's got the newest battery and whatever. All of those things we just get pounded with it all the time. But when you turn around and look at the market, they're barely 3% of the overall automotive market when you count every electrified vehicle. And so they are very, very small potatoes. Now, in the future, is that going to change? Obviously it will. But
Yeah.
right now, for all the green and environmental talk, it's all based on, all of these are riding on, literally, almost literally, they're riding in the back of pickup trucks. And that's what's
And
actually getting them there.
and I think that's very indicative of our society right now. Is everything is geared towards making, well, in the case of automotive industry, everything is geared towards making big, heavy, bulky cars. But the real malaise in society is that people want a healthier life. They want a greener life. They want a life that's less stressful and everything. Unfortunately, pretty much everything relies on heavy industries and production. And these guys, car makers, whether you talk about Ford or Nissan or Toyota, they're geared towards making gasoline engines, putting a chassis around it, and putting a body on top of it and call it a day. Now, one thing that one of the reasons why I've liked Ford in the past is at least Ford had the vision or the foresight to think that things are changing and we need to be much more nimble, because the one thing that these big guys are not is nimble, and that's why startups usually do pretty much better. But Ford's idea of the power of choice, as they call it, is to have one platform with different types of motorization. So if there is enough demand for an F-150 hybrid, then they can make it. It's in the plans, and I kind of like that idea, and I think that's something all these other guys should be looking into. But yeah, they're I think it's very interesting that society wants one thing but still likes the cup holders and the multimedia infotainment systems and everything, and there's this sort of schizophrenia of what they want, what they really need. And of course, car makers are kind of stuck in the middle because of all these investments they've made over decades. They can't just turn around and start making batteries in electric vehicles. So it's tough, it's very tough.
Well, and in their defense a little bit, car makers also have to think about the buying public, who they're selling to. And honestly, for all the great things that they have, an electric car for a lot of people is just not realistic. Battery electric specifically, but even a lot of hybrids, because a hybrid, the larger a hybrid gets in terms of vehicle size, the less efficiency you generally add with the hybrid powertrain.
Absolutely.
In terms of return on investment. And so I could go. There's a reason. Let's just look back a little ways, and things have changed a lot, and it's possible that the technology may be able to go further now. But when General Motors was putting out hybrid SUVs and pickup trucks, full-size SUVs and pickup trucks, they did not sell well at all. And the reason they did not sell well is because you pay this huge hybrid premium, but you only get 2 or 3 miles a gallon in return. And it really was not a payoff for people.
No, not at all. And they had better luck with their eco-techs and engines that got much better. Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
For another example, this week in my driveway is a Prius V. And that's my test vehicle this week. And it's a great car. The problem is that for a family of 4, for my family, it is barely big enough. It's not quite large enough. You can fit a lot of stuff in there, and I can get the kids in the back seat and have us in the car.
So you think so? Because a friend of mine just came down with one, and she has 2 girls. Granted, she was by herself, but I finally had a really good look at it, like inside and everything. It is so much bigger than the original Prius. I thought that was family of 4.
But most of the addition in space seems to have gone into the cargo area.
That's true. That's very true.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually great to have that big cargo space. We used the hell out of it yesterday driving into town. My problem is that when the 4 of us are all in the car and then we go shopping and do things, we feel cramped. and you shouldn't feel that way in a car. You should always feel like your knees and elbows are just fine. Um, and that's a comfort issue. And people who buy cars, they expect to have that knee and elbow issue.
By the way,
You know what I mean?
editor's note for those of you who are international listeners. Aaron is 6'9", and his wife is 6'6", and the children are already well past 6 foot, and they're only 4 years old. Welcome to America. No, but it's
No,
true. I think
I am six
right.
feet 3 inches. My wife is 5 foot nothing. But our two daughters are 3 and 4 years old, and they're both we're a little bit over 3 feet, and it's the car seat. The car seat
Yeah,
triples a kid's
true.
size when you put it in the car. That's a
Yeah,
big
it's
one.
true. It's
And
true. And it
what
does sit
bothers
very,
me is
very
that
well.
I am in the front seat driving, and my daughter behind me is kicking my chair.
Yeah, it's true.
That means
I've noticed that. But that's I think that's also the way that the Prius was a good car, 15, 20 years, well, 15 years ago. But I really think it needs to be redesigned because right now a lot of electric cars, even hybrids and plug-in hybrids, are coming in the market with batteries that are much
oh
lower,
yeah, yeah.
much more room inside, and I think Toyota needs to seriously redesign
Well,
that. But I mean, I think I
I
know what
think
Toyota's
I
doing.
think
Toyota's putting all of their eggs into the hydrogen basket, so they're not interested in redesigning
Well,
the
actually,
Prius.
I think the Prius is I think they're going to introduce a new design next year for 2016.
Yes, they will, but it's
So
not
we'll
going to be
see a new
a
one.
complete redesign. Yeah, I don't think it's going to
Yeah,
be a completely
I
redesign. It's
just
going to
think
be a facelift and closer to a facelift.
for me, if they're going to call it the Prius V and they're going to tell me that V means van, then the car should be slightly larger. It needs to be maybe an inch taller, and it needs to have sliding doors on it. Um, Otherwise,
True.
what it really is just a Avalon-sized Prius, and even at that, it's not the same size as the Avalon.
It's a puffed up, yeah, it's a
Uh,
puffed up Prius. And you know what?
yeah,
In that case, I mean, have you actually been in the C-Max? The C-Max does a better job
yes, I would.
route management.
That for me is what the Prius should be aiming for.
Yeah.
Because I imagine like our daily vehicle, our family vehicle is a Mazda 5 minivan. That would be
Yes.
perfect
Yes.
as
True.
a hybrid, family van, a Prius V style. But on the other hand, I've driven some other cars, like the Camry hybrid is very well done. I really like that car. It's not, I mean, people like to diss on the Camry, and that's fine. It is boring, but it's not made to be a fun car. It's made to be a good car, and there's a reason it sells the way it does. And the hybrid version is selling very, very well, and I really enjoy it. But back to our subject, we were.
Aaron and I are masters of tangents, by the way.
I
Okay,
know.
let us talk about frogs, and pretty soon we'll be talking about the spaceship. Did you know what
But
NASA is doing with frogs?
so one thing we should bring up is the green. We talked about the green car market. It's paid for by SUVs and pickup trucks and crossovers, just to remind everybody what we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
Uh, Now, swing that or back around again to Tesla. What is their next product going to be?
Now, yeah, interestingly enough, well, it depends how you look at it, but yes, the next product, which was announced already a long time ago, is now we don't call them SUVs anymore. We call them CUVs, which really just complicates the matter even more. Anyway, it's a bloated, not I shouldn't say bloated car. It's a big Model S. So it uses the platform of the Model S. It just makes it bigger. It's the Uber American car. People want an SUV, a
Hmm.
CUV. So Tesla is saying, okay, no problem. And interestingly enough, this is where I think that Tesla engineering is actually pretty very good. It's very decent. It uses the same platform. It adds an extra motor in the front, so now it's a four-wheel drive, and you have the space of an SUV CUV. And you know what? They don't even advertise it. They have more reservations than they can actually furnish right now. I mean, it's incredible. So there you go. Next car from Tesla is going to be a CUV. Which, by the way, in 2008, 2009, when they were saying that, I remember laughing, going, "Boy, that's stupid." But no, I neglected the power of the American psyche to crave those big cars, and there you go, bingo, it's gonna
See,
happen.
and for me, it was the other way around. When I first saw Tesla was going away from the Roadster and designing their own vehicle, the first thing I thought was, really, a big sedan? That's what you're gonna do? Because I saw it. I saw the Model S, and I was like, I was thinking that is the smallest market of car. I mean, in terms of
Yeah,
cars,
yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of cars with doors on them and a trunk, that is the tiniest market. Nobody buys full size sedans anymore. Uh, well, nobody under the age of 50, and so I was thinking,
yeah.
why would you do
But
that? What's the point of
yeah,
that?
and look
Why
at the
don't you build
results today.
well,
And
and
look at the
my
results.
right, but my first thought was you should buid a small crossover. That was my thought.
Yes,
You should
yeah,
build
and
a small sized, the size of say the Nissan Murano, the RAV4, any of those, that size car. And you
yeah.
should make it a small crossover. It doesn't have to be all-wheel drive, and sell that because that is the fastest growing market, and it is the biggest selling market outside of
Well,
pickup trucks.
however, yeah, but you know what? I think that's you actually bring a really good point. That's the fastest selling market for say GM, Ford, Chrysler, and Toyota, the big guys, right?
Right.
But the one thing that the big guys have that startups don't have is they can adjust more or less quickly to market fluctuations. So yeah, the latest trends are big pickup trucks and SUVs and everything. Obviously, it's not going to last forever unless there's a way to make them even more fuel efficient, which I think Mazda has a good shot in hell to do it. And this is where something like Tesla, the small little startup with Tesla, which has I guess limited funds and limited resources, they can't just make directly an SUV and then change all of a sudden and make a smaller car when all of a sudden the psyche turns around and says, hey, we don't need big cars, we need small cars. And you were saying something before, by the way, I thought was very interesting is car makers have to be careful or make sure that they aim what people really want. That's something I've always really questioned because I always get the feeling that car makers don't really listen to what people want. Simply enough because, well, Steve Jobs said it pretty well. People don't know what they want until they're presented what they want. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that GM has taught us over the years in the 1950s when they couldn't sell the big cars. All they did was add fins, and all of a sudden, people love big cars with fins. Although all the GI Joes were coming back and saying we want small cars that handle well. So I think that's right now what's happening is probably something that's never happened in the world of the automotive world. It's the fact that the people want smaller, more efficient cars, but they are so attracted to the creature comforts that they've been given over the
Right.
years, and that puts automakers at such a disadvantage because for the first time in history, people are saying we want big cars that consume no gas, and that's something
Yeah.
that they just can't do. So I think in many ways Tesla is going, oh, you want that? Well, here's what we can do. And in
Right.
many ways, that $80,000 Model X is a wonderful answer to that. I mean, of course, you and I we're not going to buy an $80,000 car anytime, and well, not today or tomorrow, but they're actually doing it. So it's such a convoluted world. I love
Yeah.
it.
I don't know so much that it's the automakers driving it as it is consumers have gotten used to a certain idea in a car.
Yeah.
We've had several generations where we've had cars as a standard part of our lifestyle, and today you're considered underprivileged if you don't own a car unless you
Yes.
live in one of the very few places in this country where not owning a car is normal, like New York City.
New
Um,
York City. Yeah.
you know, for most of us, if you don't own a car, you are at a severe disadvantage, and it's probably even if you make $200,000 a year, if you don't own a car, you probably qualify for all kinds of government handouts and stuff because you're now poverty stricken. Um,
Yeah.
and
Hey.
it's actually become very odd for us not to own more than one car. And so, but to kind of bring us back around to what we were talking about
Yeah.
with pickup trucks and stuff and green cars, the last thing I want to point out is, um, well, I think we've pretty much killed the subject. We've talked about it. We've covered it.
There's
But what I,
there's one
what I
thing that we
want to
didn't
say,
cover after.
okay, well, here's what I want to wrap with. I had a Mazda MX-5 Miata as a test vehicle, and that car. There's two things about that car that were more than awesome beyond just the whole Miata thing, right? Because Miata,
Yeah.
well, there's no way to explain a Miata. You just have to go
Just
drive it.
drive
So,
one. Yeah.
but anyway, uh, the thing that, in fact, when I wrote it up on Guys Gab, I think I summed it up by saying the Miata is the Hugh Hefner of cars. A lot of people love to diss on it, but everybody wants to be in that driver's seat.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so anyway, the two things that I thought about the Miata the most, though, was one, the fact that my 4-year-old daughter, standing at 39 inches tall, can walk up to the car and look over the windowsill into the car.
Nice.
That's how tiny it
Absolutely.
is. The second thing about that car I thought was this car is prime to have batteries and a motor in it because it's
Oh
already small, tons of fun, huge amount. I mean, it's not expected to go hugely fast. It's not made.
no.
The
Do
Miata
you
is not a
remember?
speed demon. It's
Do
a
you
fun
remember?
car.
Yeah,
That's
do you remember that article I wrote? I think it was on Torque News a few years ago. I have a friend of mine who actually converted one to
uh
electricity a few years ago, and at the time lithium was too expensive, so she put gel packs in it. But I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun. Yes, it was heavier than the regular Miata, but I got to tell you, in sit and go traffic, it was really great, and it still had the original 5 gear box. And here's the funny thing, the car was
awesome.
pretty much drivable in second and fifth most of the way. So, you start in second, that's perfect for everyday driving in the city.
Yeah.
But get on that highway, open that clutch, put in your fifth gear, and then let it go slowly, or else you're going to blow your clutch. But and that car could hit 70 75 miles an hour, no problem, and it really had an effective range of about 60 80 miles if I remember well at the time. So yeah, that car is a dead. So it's really interesting what you're saying here. I was going to bring up two things, and this is a perfect segue. We never talked about Honda, and I guess it makes sense because Honda is an interesting company. We know they're working on a lot of things right now. They're just being hush hush mum mum about it.
Hmm.
They do make pickup trucks and SUVs, and in fact, one day I saw the most hilarious ad from Honda. I think it was what's their big SUV called? I forgot now.
Which one? The
The big
CRV
one.
is the one that sells the best. Their
No,
largest one, they have what do they have?
what's that
Honda
big one? Well, anyway, the big one that they
Pilot
had.
is the
Yes, it
small
was the pilot. It was the
one. Okay.
pilot. So I saw this big billboard ad, and it said "big but not bloated," which I thought was just hilarious. I was like, "Well, if you say so, I guess. I mean, whatever." And so I think Honda is actually well poised to use all of that manufacturing might to make electric cars. But I think what they're really working on is hydrogen, and they're just sort of afraid of saying it. But you're right. The next one who's
Well, we should clarify though. Hydrogen is just another kind of electric car. Um,
it is, and
I
there's
think I
nothing
think a
there's
lot of
nothing
people
wrong
have
with
a hard
the.
time wrapping their mind around that. But
Well, there,
hydrogen
there
is
is
just different.
because
A
technically there are
hydrogen
a lot
fuel
of
cell is
things.
just a
Yeah.
different kind of battery. It's really all it is.
Well, yeah, but no, it's not very efficient compared to an electric car. So that's the
Well,
thing.
we're
I
not
mean,
going to
think
get into
about.
that argument. I just
No,
want people to
we're not. We'll keep
understand, and
that
they
for later.
won't.
Yeah, yeah,
It
but that's the
amazes
whole
me how many
point.
people refuse to acknowledge the fact that a hydrogen fuel cell car is just an electric car with a fuel
It's a
cell as a
hybrid.
battery.
It's
So
it's a
yeah, it's just
hybrid.
another kind
Yeah,
of
it's just another hybrid. But the other car maker that's going to surprise us is Mazda, because if you remember a few years ago, up until maybe last year, they were saying no way, Jose, no electric cars, gasoline engines have a lot to offer, blah blah blah, which was fine. And when you look at what Skyactiv has done, it's fantastic. Now diesel, and guess what's happening? Now hybrids. Now, I mean, pretty soon plug-in hybrids, and pretty soon, of course, electric cars. And you're right. Who is the best contender of all the modern cars in the world right now for an electric conversion? The Miata. So you're totally right about that.
So let's wrap on that because
Yes.
I think we beat it to death and the horse is definitely
Yeah.
dead.
Without
Uh,
without building pickup trucks and SUVs, most of these car makers cannot sell electric cars. We know how much Fiat is crying and whining over the fact that it's losing money for every Fiat 500e it's making, and that's because they don't make a lot of SUVs and pickup trucks, contrary to GM, Toyota, and Ford. So there you go.
yes. All right. So for Car News Cafe, this has been Aaron. Talk to you again soon.
And for Car News Cafe, this is Nicholas Zart signing off and hoping you have a great week. And let us know what you see out there, what you would like to hear about more often, and all that good stuff. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Car Car News Cafe, same thing on, well, just Google us, for crying out loud. You'll find out more about us this way. And then leave us your comments. They're always appreciated, and they make us feel like we're not alone out there. Darn those
Yeah, and
freaks.
anytime you want to PayPal us, you can send me money at.
Yeah. By the way, I have two slow leaks on my tires. I need new tires.
Oh.
Michelin, can you hear me, Michelin? Bye.
Bye.